Projekt Guru.
Всем привет! С вами Zak Novak на радиостанции Novorossia Rocks. Welcome to Novorossia Rocks Radio Station. This is Zak Novak, your American in downtown Donetsk. The program is called Projekt Guru, and Guru's in the house as always. Andre, my engineer, and Masha Dasha, special guest in the studio. Let's get right to it. Uncle Sam wants you dead. Pentagon allows killing of civilians. Though the Pentagon has mostly issued blanket denials whenever they're caught killing civilians in airstrikes against ISIS targets anyhow, officials say their eagerness to escalate the air war against ISIS targets has seen the implementation of new rules allow the U.S. to kill larger numbers of civilians per attack. To kill larger numbers of civilians. The details are still scant, with the official rules likely to remain a secret, but officials say they have implemented a sliding scale based on the region being targeted and the opportunity. In some cases, U.S. airstrikes will be allowed to kill 10 civilians per strike. Guru, are you listening to that? In some cases, U.S. airstrikes will be allowed to kill 10 civilians per strike. This was seen previously in incidents where U.S. forces attacked sites believed to contain physical cache. In both cases, the attacks took place in residential neighborhoods, and the Pentagon insisted they were comfortable with the number of civilians killed. Despite officials being pretty open about killing civilians in those cases, the deaths were never included in the official Pentagon figures for civilians killed. Overall, the Pentagon is believed to have killed several hundred civilians in the ISIS air war since 2013, though the official admissions are to only 14 deaths, war crimes by the Obama regime. Guru Andre, let's go to Brazil. A majority in the lower house of Brazil's Congress has voted for the president's impeachment. Hundreds of thousands of Dilma Rousseff's opponents and supporters have been rallying across the country. With 481 votes having been cast so far, 348 congressmen voted in favor of Dilma's impeachment and 133 voted against or abstained. The impeachment backers needed two-thirds majority, or at least 342 votes in the 513 set body for the measure to move on to the Senate. The ruling Workers' Party has admitted the defeat, with the party's leader in the chamber, Jose Guimarães, said that the battle will now move into Senate. The fight continues now in the Senate, Guimarães told reporters as cited by Reuters. The government is confident that the Senate will dismiss the impeachment, said Presidential Chief of Staff Jacques Wagner, rejecting the vote as orchestrated by Rousseff's opponents who never accepted her re-election. If the Senate then decides that there are legal grounds for an impeachment and over half of the body backs it, Rousseff would be temporarily suspended from office pending a Senate trial. Before I continue with some more news, last night I was passing by Oktobersky district, heavy bombing in the area. Also news that Spartak and Gorlovka was hit as well again. Poroshenko, Obama, stop your bombing on civilian areas. Continue with more madness. Listen to this. Guru, Andre, Nazi Erdogan government backed by the Obama regime continue to slaughter women and children at the border. Turkey's border guards continue shooting at Syrian women and children who try to flee their home country. The Times newspaper was reported 8 Syrians, most of them women and children, have been killed by the Turkish border guards while fleeing their war-torn homeland. The group was trying to cross into Turkey via a mountain smuggling route at the western end of the frontier when they were pushed back by Turkish forces firing live rounds. The British Daily says the killing on Sunday were the latest in a series of cruel incidents in which at least 24 people have been killed since December. In late March, the paper reported that 16 migrants, including 3 children, have been killed over the past 4 months by Turkish border guards. Erdogan, you're a sick bastard. Obama, you should be on war crimes trial. As the Obama regime kills civilians in Syria, Mother Russia is there to help. About 4 tons of Russian humanitarian aid, including bread baked from Russian flour, have been delivered to residents of 2 populated localities in Syria's Homs province. Representatives of the Russian Center for Reconciliation of the Warring Parties in Syria, Colonel Igor Borodin, has told reporters. Residents of Al-Jabriya and Badu villages received dry rations, canned fish, meat, sugar, flour, and cereals. Sweets, waffles, biscuits, and candy were brought especially for children. Just like in other inhabited localities where humanitarian aid is delivered, Russian military doctors launched a mobile medical center to help those in need. Borodin recalled that Al-Jabriya and Badu had recently signed a ceasefire agreement. More and more settlements joined this regime. According to Al-Jabriya elder Isa Abbas Qasem, more than 70 residents who fought against terrorists in the Syrian army and People's Militia have been killed. The villagers thanked Russia for help, thanked Mother Russia for help. We feel safe when Russia is with us, and we want this support to continue in the future. Increase in combat activity by Jafat al-Nusra terrorist group in Syria. The Russian military reports increased activities of the Jafat al-Nusra terrorist group in Syria. The Russian Center for Reconciliation of the Warring Parties in Syria said its regular daily updates posted on the Russian Defense Ministry Facebook account. The intensity of combat activities of the Jafat al-Nusra terrorist group is reportedly increasing in northeastern territories of the province of Latakia. Terrorists staged 2 offensive against the government forces during the past day. After one of such attacks staged after an intense bombardment supported by tanks and armed vehicle, militants managed to seize the settlement of Herbet al-Arus. The militants' attempt to seize the settlement of Salma has been rebuffed. Having sustained losses, the terrorists retreated to their initial positions. Positions of the Turkish army near the settlement of Metishili, located in Turkey, came under mortar shelling by militants from the village of Ain Shamas. These provocative actions were meant to force Turkish servicemen open retaliation fire and ultimately break down the peace process in Syria. Please listen to that. These provocative actions were meant to force Turkish servicemen open retaliation fire and ultimately break down the peace process in Syria. Damascus district Basatin Abu Jarash twice came under mortar shelling by militants. Guru, let's stay in Syria. Russia, full support of Syrian state. Russia will spare no effort to bolster and support Syria and make sure there is not another path to a collapse of yet another state, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said on Tuesday after talks with his visiting French counterpart Jean-Marc Ayrault. We will do our best to prevent the military solution, staking on force from winning the upper hand, because this is a path of ultimate chaos in the region, to the collapse of yet another state after what has been done to Iraq and Libya. Yemen, too, is far from being its best shape. We must call to responsibility those who cherish such plans. Lavrov also said that no ministerial meeting of Syria Support Group was planned for April 21st. As for a meeting of the International Syria Support Group on April 21st, this group is functioning in Geneva at the level of envoys and 2 task forces on ceasefire and on humanitarian issues. These groups meet every 2 days. I think the mass media means such a meeting when they speak about a meeting on April 21st. A ministerial meeting is beyond the agenda at this stage. We believe that the mechanism that was created and is working in Geneva is rather efficient and makes it possible to control the current situation, to solve arising problems swiftly. Ministers will have to get involved when radical changes are needed in our common approaches, when the mandate approved by the United Nations Security Council needs adjustments. Nazi Turkey bans journalists and shutdown of Sputnik website. Turkey's authorities have banned entry to Tural Kerimov, who heads the Turkish bureau of Russian news agency Sputnik, its website said on Wednesday. The incident occurred at the Istanbul Ataturk airport, where the journalist spent around an hour at the arrival screening point. Later, a member of the border control gave him a paper that says that he is a passenger whose entry is prohibited in Turkey. The paper doesn't contain any explanation. His press card and residence permit were also seized, and he was asked to return to Russia on the next flight. On April 14th, Turkey's authorities blocked access to the Sputnik website. The country's telecommunications department said the website was shut based on Law 5651 that limits citizens' access to information. Russia's foreign ministry has condemned Turkey's move to block Sputnik news site, saying this is another violation of fundamental human rights and freedoms, including the freedom of speech and the right for access to information. The ministry said that the policy of increasing pressure of the Turkish authorities on mass media continues. Disguised terrorist groups. Moscow will raise the issue of putting on a list of terrorist extremist groups that change names and keep undermining the truce in Syria at the United Nations Security Council, Russian Foreign Ministry Sergei Lavrov said. There is evidence evidence that Jabhat al-Nusra is trying to disguise itself under new names, uniting with small groups not included in terrorist lists. They are thus trying to escape retribution. We are generalizing such facts. I'm convinced we will soon raise the issue in the United Nations Security Council. A ceasefire regime brokered by Russia and the United States on February 22nd officially came into effect in Syria at midnight Damascus time on February 27th. This does not cover terrorist groups such as Islamic State and Jabhat al-Nusra, both outlawed in Russia, and other groups recognized as terrorists by the United Nations Security Council. Guru Andrei, Serbia, on the eve in the village of Batanica, has been held prayer for the dead Milica Rakic, a 3-year-old victim of the terrorist organization NATO bombing in 1999, as well as protests against any form of rapprochement of Serbia with the alliance. The meeting was jointly organized by several patriotic movements when approved by Milica's parents. For 17 years, Milica Rakic is a symbol of the suffering of the Serb people, particularly civilians, in the days of the bombardments. Innocent victim is called here an angel. Firstly, the priest held a prayer for the dead near the memorial plaque, and then organizers of the meeting gave a speech in front of the gathered people. NATO terror is worse than Hitler's. We are tolerating it for already 25 years. However, we are struggling it so hard that even after 15 years of actual occupation, the world still believes in us, said Chairman of the Movement for Serbia, Vladimir Krasanin. We demand the immediate cancellation of all agreements with NATO. It's incredible how the criminal aggression of NATO is trying to be forgotten, said an officer of the Republic Srpska, Branislav Okuka. How an enemy could be called a friend, and why it is done, because we are chosen a destiny for which we have to disappear. We pray to the heavenly Milica so that no one will never forget the death and the crimes. Let's get to it with Djokovic, our favorite tennis player. The world's #1 tennis player was presented with the 2015 Laureus Sportsman of the Year award for the second straight year in Berlin on Monday evening. Djokovic claimed the prestigious recognition for the third time in his career after being the best in 2011 and 2014. The list of nominees included Lewis Hamilton, Messi, Usain Bolt, Steph Curry, and Jordan Spieth. With his third title, Djokovic caught up with Bolt and got closer to equalizing Roger Federer's record of 4 awards. Last year, the Serbian tennis player achieved outstanding results, the Laureus Academy said in the release. He won 3 Grand Slams, the Australian Open, Wimbledon, and the US Open, and reached the Roland Garros final, thus becoming the third tennis player who managed to clear his way to all 4 Grand Slam finals in the same year. The world's #1 also ended 2015 with 6 Masters title. Viva Serbia, Viva Djokovic. Hey everyone, that ends our program for today. As I stress always, be safe out there, stay on alert, and see you all on Friday. Bye-bye, folks.